Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the venue training for the Dome and Pavilions. We want to congratulate you on being appointed a position at this fantastic venue, and we appreciate the time that you have already given and that you're about to give to the staging of these games. And I may be biased, I'm not sure, but I think that you have definitely picked the best venue out of all of them at which to work. Because you see, in just 20 days' time, and I can't believe it's just 20 days, the opening ceremony will begin, and that's just across the road there at the stadium. And then following on from that, our venue is the only venue with competition on for every single day of both the Olympic and the Paralympic Games. And we have the widest number of sports out of any of the venues, plus our venue is located right here in the centre of Sydney Olympic Park, which is where the main action will be focused. And of course, very importantly, we have a tremendous team of people working here, including you. So I really want to thank you for the time that you've given and that you're about to give as well. I think that this experience that you're going to have will be absolutely unlike anything that you've ever had before. My name is Jenny Redpath, and I'm the venue staffing manager for this venue, which means that overall I have responsibility for ensuring that everything to do with staffing at this venue runs smoothly. A venue staffing manager is a bit like being a human resource manager, but just concentrating on one particular venue. And you'll hear more about the role of venue staffing a little bit later in the presentation. Today's session is going to be fast-paced and informative. And to date, many of you would have already attended orientation training, or if you're a contractor, your organisation would have received the orientation training material. Either way, both of those covered the big picture of the Olympics. So today what we'll be doing is focusing just on our venue, and you'll get to meet our competition managers. You will hear about our 6 different Olympic sports. You'll meet our venue manager, who has the ultimate responsibility for everything that happens at our venue. You will also meet our 2 operations managers and get important information as to what it is like to be a member of the Games Force at our venue. So the session will last for approximately 1 hour and will be followed by a tour of the venue. And I'll give you more information about that tour a little bit later in the session.
Sometimes it's a privilege to... Sydney 2000. History in the making.
And our venue and everyone in it will be a part of history in the making, as that video says, as we have a unique range of sports and a unique range of athletes competing in those sports. Our 6 Olympic sports are basketball, handball, modern pentathlon, badminton, rhythmic gymnastics and volleyball. And between these sports, we have some of the tallest and some of the smallest athletes. We have some of the oldest and some of the youngest athletes. Some athletes have been involved with the Olympic Games for a while, and for others, this will be their first time. And some of our sports require grace, flexibility and balance, while others require sheer speed and power. So our competition managers will now be giving us more information about the sports. And to give you a taste of what it is that you can expect at our venue, we've also arranged footage of 2 of the sports for you. One of those being rhythmic gymnastics, which is an individual sport, and the other being volleyball, to give you a taste of a team sport. So now we'll start off with those videos. First of all, rhythmic gymnastics.
Since its introduction in Los Angeles in 1984, rhythmic gymnastics has attained an ever-growing and devoted following. In Barcelona, it produced an undisputed queen. With a confident display of agility and grace, the unified team's Alexandra Timonchenko became the third rhythmic gymnastics Olympic champion.
Good morning, everybody. And now we'll go into our volleyball video. Sports Organising Commission, which oversaw the Federation's international and national competitions conducted in Australia. Phil was also the regional...
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Jen.
Alex Gravilovich, our competition manager for handball, has been involved with the sport from its beginning in this country. He represented Australia at the international level for 7 years, from 1983 to 1990. Alex is the current president of the New South Wales Handball Association, and his organisational highlight was the 1999 Southern Cross International Handball Challenge, where 11 national representative teams competed, and that was including the current men's and the women's world and Olympic champions. So please welcome Alex Gravilovich to the stage.
Thanks, Jen. Good morning, everyone.
And we have Ed Egan, who is our Sports Services Manager for Modern Pentathlon with us. And Ed was the training partner for Atlanta, the British pentathlon team. And in 1999, he was also responsible for the UIPM World Cup final and has in fact competed in 2 World Championships in modern pentathlon. So would you please join me in welcoming Ed Egan to the stage? I think we have a strong modern pentathlon contingent here today.
Morning, everyone. Thanks for inviting me on this morning, Jane.
And Dennis Morgan, our competition manager for badminton, is one of Australia's most respected sports administrators and the highly successful World Grand Prix badminton event. So please join me in welcoming Dennis Morgan to the stage.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Jenny. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Dennis. So, as mentioned, we have a wide variety of sports and a wide variety of athletes in our venue. So let's start with the fastest. And we have both the fastest racket sport in the world, which is badminton, and the fastest ball sport in the world, which is handball. So we'll start with Dennis, who's just arrived. So, Dennis, badminton is still a newcomer to the world of the Olympics. It was just introduced to the Games in Barcelona in 1992. So, Dennis, what is the history behind badminton?
A little bit older than that, Jenny. It was first played as a sport called battledore in China in the 3rd and 4th century, but its modern history goes to the 1870s, where it was brought back from India to a place called Badminton House, and that's where it's got its name. And Badminton House is where the horse trials are held today. And the International Federation, formed in 1934, is based within 20 kilometres of where its roots were.
And we tend to think of tennis as being Dennis Morgan.
I think Philippoussis hits at about 210 kilometres per hour. This little thing travels at 261 kilometres per hour over the net. The Guinness Book of Record holder is Simon Archer from Great Britain. To those who are privileged to see the leading sport in the pavilions, badminton, over the Games, he will be representing Great Britain in both men's doubles and mixed doubles.
Thanks, Dennis. And you mentioned Simon Archer being from Great Britain, and I understand, though, it's the Asian countries who are dominating the sport in the Olympics. Do you think that will still be the case in Sydney?
I think so, Jenny. Of the 31 medals that have been awarded in badminton since 1996, since '92. Asia have won 29 of them. The other 2 medals have been won by Denmark, which was the men's singles in Atlanta last games, and a bronze medal in them by Denmark in the men's singles in Barcelona. But I expect again them to dominate, and I always have to say that the Brits have got a bit of a chance because he's not here today, but I brought one of my workers out from England, so I've got to say that they've got a rough chance in the mixed doubles.
Body contact. And to a lot of us as Australians, we might find that surprising because we tend to think of handball as being that game that we play with a tennis ball, which I know this is definitely not the case. So how exactly is handball played? And well, I guess how does it differ from other Olympic team events as well?
Thanks, Jen, and thanks, Dennis. You're always a hard act to follow. As you can see, we brought along some props to show you from the various sports, and I brought the biggest prop ever because we're actually sitting on the handball competition court for this venue. So you can then appreciate that it's nothing to do with tennis balls or schoolyards. It's played 7 aside. It's a team sport. There's a goalkeeper and 6 field players. And it's a little bit, to put a visual picture for you, it's a bit like playing water polo without the water or soccer with hands. And just like in water polo and soccer, the aim is very simple. It's to throw a ball similar to this one into one of those goals and thereby scoring a goal. The team with the most goals wins. There is a lot of physical contact. That's something that we're not used to here, especially from the ladies. They can be just as rough and tumble as the men. But it's not all just physical contact. There's a lot of finesse and a lot of power and a lot of grace in our sport as well.
And I hear that the handballers in Europe, which may also come as a surprise to us, being the best in their sport can actually earn quite a significant income out of being the best in their sport. So what are we talking about there?
Sure, I think if you're a top handballer, Europe's the place to live. The top athletes there would probably be earning in the order of $250,000 to $500,000 a year, which is a similar sort of money that athletes here in Australia would earn if they're top rugby league players or rugby union or cricket players.
Thanks, Alex. And going from one ball sport to another that also is renowned for its very high pay packets, we have basketball at our venue at the Dome. So, Lorraine, what do you think we could expect from the team who we most commonly know as the Dream Team?
Well, Jen, the Dream Team first appeared on the Olympic stage in 1992. And since then they've won the gold medal. But in 2000, I think that they'll probably have some competition. They will certainly have a great team. They are very keen not to be called the Dream Team 4, but Team USA. So they'll get competition from Yugoslavia, the world champions, and this great venue. It's all temporary, and I think it's been wonderful to be a part of actually having it develop. And I think that it's a very intimate venue down there in the Dome, 10,900 spectators. We'll be there for 11 days and then we'll move across to the Superdome for the quarterfinals. And that will be a big challenge.
In 1964 in Tokyo, and that was for both men and women. Sadly to say that Sydney 2000 will not see any Japanese teams, which is a bit of a history for volleyball.
Also.
Well, as our press operations managers say, that never let the truth interfere with a good story. I guess with the net heights, the men jump over for nets playing over net heights of 2.43 metres and women 2.24. So that jumping ability is a requirement of our sport. And I guess to see how that compares, when you look at basketball, we have Maria Louise from Cuba, who stands just over 1.7 metres tall, who can slam dunk a basketball. And we have some Russian players who have the ability to take a coin, jump, put it on top of the backboard, and the next one will jump and take it back off. True story.
Like all your other true stories. And I know that volleyball is extremely popular in the Asian, the European and the South American countries. So, Phil, what countries will be competing here in Sydney and how do you think it's likely to go?
Well, in the women's division, we've got the gold medalists from Atlanta, that's Cuba and Brazil, and currently they're untouchable, so I would imagine that they will be playing for gold. In the men's division, we've got the top...
That's great, and I think we saw from that video what sort of an atmosphere we can expect in Pavilion 4 as well. And next door to that, we have in Pavilion 3, after badminton is over, rhythmic gymnastics, and that's where we have summer gymnastics.
Thanks, Jen. Yeah, gymnastics for the Olympic Games is across 3 disciplines. Our first 2 disciplines, which is artistic gymnastics for both men and women, is where they actually perform on apparatus, and that will take place over in the Superdome, and that's followed by trampoline. And for trampoline, it's their first Olympics, and that's again for both men and women in the Superdome. Then we move across here to Pavilion 3 after badminton, and that's with our rhythmic gymnasts, and they're all female and absolutely stunning performers.
Thanks. And there's a term that we hear of a lot with regards to gymnastics, kiss and cry. So what is kiss and cry?
Kiss and cry is really there for the broadcasters, and it's off the field of play, and when the athletes finish performing, they move across to this area called kiss and cry, and it's where they sit and wait for their score to come in. And when they then see their score on the screen in front of them, they're either going to be very happy, and therefore lots of kissing takes place, or they're going to be very sad, and therefore lots of crying will take place.
And gymnasts, of course, are known for at least 2 very unique qualities, and one being the age at which they start training and start competing, and the other being the physical requirements that they have to be able to be a gymnast. So could you tell us a little bit more about that, please, Kim?
I think the gymnasts are probably some of the youngest competitors in the game. And that includes both the artistic and the rhythmic. And most of our rhythmic gymnasts will be somewhere between 15 and 21 years of age. And they'll have a very fine build, as you saw in the video, and they're very flexible. Most of them have started training.
Thanks, Kim. And finally, on to one of the most unique sports in the Olympic Games, and that's modern pentathlon. And the history of modern pentathlon I find very fascinating. So, Ed, could you please tell us about the history of the sport and what exactly it represents?
He wants the modern Olympics to replace the ancient pentathlon in the Greek games that involved long jumping, wrestling, discus throwing, javelin and running. So based upon a 19th century messenger, someone who could take an unknown horse, ride it across enemy territory, defend himself with both pistol and sword, and when he comes across a river could swim across and carry on foot. Those are the 5 sports that are in the pentathlon. So it first came in the Olympics in 1912 in Stockholm. It's been in every Olympic since then. It's changed a bit since then. We've gone from cross-country riding to show jumping, from live 2-2 pistols to air pistol. And then in Atlanta we went from the 5-day format to a 1-day competition so spectators and TV could follow it all in 1 day. And then most excitingly in Sydney, for the first time we're going to have women competing in the Games. So we'll have 24 men competing on the 30th of September and then 24 women on the final day of competition.
And what do you think we can expect here at our venue? What's going to be happening in Pavilion 2 with modern pentathlon?
Well, Pavilion is going to be very important for the competitors, where they're going to start building up their points for the day. It's going to start very sedately with shooting in here. We're going to shoot over on this left side. We're going to actually move the stands out and the spectators for the shooting competition on that side. And there'll be a 10-metre air pistol range over there for the 20 shots of competition. And then from the calmness of the shoot, we'll be moving on to the fencing, and that field of play is going to be here. We're going to have 6 pieces or strips where the competitors will fence each of the other competitors to 1 hit. And so from being very calm, the competitors can get very excited. It's the only event where they actually take points off their competitors, and so you can have a lot of shouting and screaming excitement here for the fence before they move on to the aquatic centre to swim, and then we're going to be riding and running in the baseball stadium.
Thanks, Ed. In order for the competition to run successfully, which is what the outside world sees, there is actually a huge network of support behind the scenes from all of the functional areas. Gabrielle, who has complete responsibility for everything that happens at our venue, will be coming and speaking to us now. And SR arrived from France to Africa, was brought up in Lebanon as a child, moved to France at the age of 10, finished his studies in Sweden, worked in Spain, and has friends and relatives living throughout Europe. His passions are sport, performance arts, and visual arts. So would you please join me in welcoming our venue manager, SR Gabriel, to the stage.
Thank you, Jenny. Thanks, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, as we say in French, bienvenue, welcome. And on behalf of the 7 of us here, but also all the managers up in the stands sitting with you, welcome to your Olympic venue. It is here, for most of you, on the 16th of September, day 1 of the Olympics, that you will be joining us to share together our once-in-a-lifetime experience. As Jenny has mentioned to you, I have been fortunate to work with the top athletes of the 2 sports that have been mine, basketball and soccer. For basketball, the top stars of the NBA, and amongst them Michael Jordan. And for soccer, of course, the French world champs, and led by Zinedine Zidane for that sport. But even for those athletes whose life and performances, achievements, glory and drama unfolds on very specific and dedicated global mediatized theaters, even for those athletes, when it comes to the games, every 4 years, every Olympiad, they consider that as way up there in their dreams. And whatever their experience, they are overwhelmed by the games, whether they are spectators or whether they are participants. And that sends them back into childhood. And just like for all those athletes of the world, and for all of us, we will be overwhelmed by this. And we are like kids in communion when it comes to the games. But this time, in 21 days, not only will we be receiving, but as members of Workforce 2000, we will all be giving. This is what sharing the spirit is all about. I have been fortunate to work on the Dome and Pavilions team since day 1, since joining SOCOG. And 140 teammates who are amongst you, we have together journeyed with pride and enthusiasm to plan and deliver this rather unique and very challenging venue. One that we fondly refer to as a dragon, given its complexity, and we are the riders of that dragon. In that process, we have now to operate the venue. And the 2,400 volunteers and the 1,600 contractors that you're part of will be joining us to run and stage the greatest show on earth. So thank you for that, and welcome again. And enjoy it. That would be my main message about all that. It's going to be very short. Do get the best out of it. You're fascinated by the games since I was 9 years old, and that was in Ghana in West Africa, as Jenny just mentioned. When I read a book, I devoured it with illustrations about every single modern Olympiad and its heroes. And since I arrived in Sydney, sometimes people point out that how far and for how long I've been away from my country to come and be part of the games. And I smile and think to myself, oh yeah, if only they knew. It's been 25 years and thousands of kilometers. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very exciting moment for all of us. And as you have been saying since 7 years here, and now it's time to be up to it. Bring on the games. Thank you very much.
Manager for Pavilions 3 and 4. And they are now going to fill you in on exactly what does happen behind the scenes. George Perry, as I mentioned, the operations manager for Dome and Pavilions, venue manager last year for the Australian Badminton International, which was a SOCOG test event. Plus, he worked on many other of our test events. Would you please join me in welcoming him?
Nice to be applauded by 1,000 or so people. It's nice, isn't it? It's terrific. Please extend your applause also for Jenny Redpath, who's done a fantastic job today as well. Thanks, Jen. It's nice, isn't it, Jen? It's nice. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Dome Pavilions. It's, in my opinion, the most exciting and the most complex venue of all the Olympic Games. It has an operating area equal to 13 football fields. And over the 16 days of the Games, we will welcome nearly 1 million spectators across 112 ticketed sessions, welcoming the 6 Olympic sports we've already heard from. Not only will we be welcoming all those spectators, but also literally tens of thousands of broadcasters, journalists, VIPs, staff, and of course athletes, the real reason we're all here. And with standard operating hours from 7 a.m. until 1 a.m. the following morning for every day of the Games, we're going to be pretty busy. Let me extend my thanks to you not only for your attendance today, but also for the immense contribution you're going to make over the next few weeks. Don't know about you, but when I started back in 1995, as Jen mentioned, and my therapy is just starting to kick in now, which is great, I never thought this day would arrive, and even though we're a matter of days away now, it's even difficult to fathom they're so close. As Operations Manager for the Dome Pavilion 2, I've been asked to talk to you briefly about the operations of the venue, and Andrea Stapleton, who's Operations Manager for Pavilions 3 and 4, will talk to you briefly about the human aspect of being part of a venue team. Many of you will have already been part of the 42 or so test events that so-called have conducted. Well, we're going to pretty much run the venue the same way as we did in those test events, except we'll have over 50,000 people joining us each day. We'll be watched by billions around the world, and of course we'll have the world's elite athletes with us. The venue team, of which you are now all a part of, consists of several functional areas providing a service to customers, of which there are the 5 main groups: our staff, our broadcasters, journalists, VIPs, and most importantly, our athletes. The responsibility of venue management, of which I am a part, is to coordinate a high level of service so all of our customers can perform at their very best. Now, each functional area will have their chain of command, and on your first day, or perhaps during your job-specific training, you will find out who your direct report is. If you're not sure, ask. In fact, in your whole experience with the Olympic Games, please ensure you have enough information armed so that you can do your job properly. In any case, if you have any major problems, please talk to your supervisor or manager or lovely Jenny Redpath or any member of her venue staffing team. It's hard to believe this enormous monster we call the Dome and Pavilions can be broken up into 3 distinct areas, but it can. You will hear these areas mentioned all the time. Front of house. This is essentially where the public will be and is the domain of our spectator services team. For an accreditation check, this area is known as the white zone, and in fact where you're sitting now is front of house and also at the front of the building as well. The back of house. This is the operational side of the venue. And for the Dome and Pavilions, the back of house comprises of over 200 rooms.